Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from France on vacation still, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast of the U.S. And we're looking at a super full slate here on a Monday night, Nate, as there actually are no games on Tuesday in the NBA this week, as everyone is going to have the opportunity to get out and vote, including those NBA players on that Tuesday voting day. So no games tomorrow, but plenty to talk about tonight. In this one, we're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns taking on Philly on a back-to-back there for the Suns. Joel Embiid still up in the air, I believe, in terms of coming back from flu, but plenty to talk about in this game, so we'll look at that. Another game and our player props video. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page so you can follow along with us on all these videos each and every weekday of this regular season, and head to thelines.com. Nate and company have all of the great written content that you will need all season long up there, and our great odds finder tool. That's what you can go ahead and use to make sure you're shopping NBA lines and player props to the best of your ability across U.S. sportsbooks this season. Nate, let's get into that full slate and then talk Philly Phoenix.
Yeah, you said it. Full slate, 15 games. Every single team has to play. Every single team gets a day off tomorrow. So, yeah, I got to go through these lines pretty quick here. Wiz +2 at Charlotte. Rockets +4.5 at Magic. Thunder +2 at Pistons. Pels -6 at Indy. The game we talk here, Phoenix is -2 at Philly. The Bucks are up to -3.5 at Atlanta. Blazers +7 at Miami. Raptors +4 at Bulls. Celtics up to -3.5 at Memphis. We will break down that game for you. Knicks are +4.5 at Mini. The Denver Nuggets -7 at Spurs. Nets +6 at Dallas. Kings +8 at Warriors. Lakers +4 at Jazz. And finally, the Cavs playing the Clippers out there -2.5. So, yeah, one of those smaller spreads you get here, and it's the Phoenix Suns. So you could close one eye and not even care who they're playing and say, sure, let's take them. But you're playing one of the 5 most dysfunctional teams in the NBA that has the guy they were trying to run their offense through out for a month, James Harden, nowhere to be found here. I mean, and Joel Embiid is questionable with a flu-like illness here. They give him a decent chance to play tonight. But look, even when he's played this season, he has not been the same guy. And so you kind of hope he plays so the line stays where it is.
Yeah.
We know what Tyrese Maxey and the boys do when Embiid is out. There is sort of a fear that, Harden being out is going to improve their efficiency because Harden's been straight owned by Mikal Bridges in 3 straight, shot 26-26 splits against the Suns. Just have to throw that in there for next time we see this matchup. But, Maxey, last time they played the Suns, 7 for 21, was a -25 in a 10-point loss. So it's not like he's just going to suddenly go out there and roast Mr. Bridges with the extra tension on him. The Suns have won 6 straight over Phoenix and covered in all those, covered by a total of 28.5. And Embiid has been the only reason it was even remotely close, right, Josh? I mean, 36.5 points per game on a 41% usage rate. Just the MVP level we saw him playing at last year. It was just like business as usual against Ayton and the Suns.
Yeah.
This year, he's at 27 points per game. His rating down to 111. He's a minus in terms of his defense. It's 112. More turnovers than assists. 3 more free throws per game. And if you have the eye test, your eyes tell you this guy's not right. It's the plantar fasciitis he's been dealing with that hurt his conditioning and seems to be still hampering him. So if he's going to play through flu and plantar fasciitis, you can't count on him to carry your team. Which brings us to like Phoenix, what they have out now. Cam Johnson out for maybe the season. Is going to need knee surgery, which hurts. That's one of our guys. But, and Jay Crowder still holding out, but I don't think that they have any issues here with Torrey Craig and Dario Saric stepping into that role. I mean, they lost to Portland without when Cam got injured, but those are the only teams they've lost to. There's 2 losses to Portland this season, and then they clap back with a 20-point win with Ayton back. And what we don't need to go into what the Suns are. They're just top 5 at every single freaking category. One of the best regular season teams we've ever seen. You can count on them to handle business, and like I said, they've handled business in this matchup. And, Maxey might get his, but he's not going to be very efficient. And you look at their last game, he He needed 29 field goals to get that 31 points. The Knicks won despite a 24-21 assist to turnover ratio. So, I mean, that's the key stat I lean on here. There's no way the Suns aren't doubling up their assist to turnover ratio. That's just what they do. So if you can still beat this Sixers team when you make that many mistakes, I don't think the Suns are going to make nearly as many mistakes tonight.
Yeah. 100%. Love everything you said. I Cam Johnson, pour one out, man. Love that dude. Hope he comes back and can still stay on the trajectory that we've all sort of been expecting from him. And that, he really has been showing that he's on this season, coming in with some high expectations and started to deliver on them when he was healthy, so far in given time. But just wanted to give him a quick shout out and his flowers as a dude. I think he'll come back and be all right, hopefully, from that meniscus injury. But, who they do have, Ayton coming back is huge, especially if Embiid is not at nearly 100%, which he's not, right? We know he's not going to be. If he comes back and does play from, coming back from the flu, then it's just right down to what's his conditioning like, combined with the fact that his foot has been bothering him again, and kept him sort of from being in shape to start this season. The way that Phoenix loses this game is Philadelphia comes in and just blasts 3-pointers from everywhere. And that's what they've been doing this season. And to his credit, Tyrese Maxey also is a huge reason for that. And then also the fact that we've talked about Philly becoming sort of the Houston Rockets from 2018, but just in the Northeast right now, with the way that they shape that roster. And we haven't seen them shoot threes at the rate that they are this season in the top 5 in terms of the percentage of their points from there and their attempts. They're also good at defending it, right? And that's once again why I say, like, the way that they win this game and sort of, take away from what we're saying here is if, you have basically without Embiid in there, if you have the normal starters without Harden, with Maxey, Melton, Harris, and Tucker, and then you're talking about either Niang, obviously you can put Harrell in there, but or Korkmaz. Main point is you have no defense, and Ayton's going to eat and completely cook tonight, and then eat everything he cooks. But if the Sixers hit those, you're right. If the Sixers hit those threes and Niang is in there just, doing his thing, pulling Ayton away from the basket on offense, and then guys like Maxey, and then obviously Korkmaz, Melton, and company, even Tobias are draining threes. I guess fine. Phoenix is, actually 19th overall in terms of the way that they defend the 3-pointer and how many points and shots that they allow their opponents to make from deep. Not their strength right now because of the fact that we've talked about guys like Jay Crowder not playing so far for them. It's definitely taken somewhat of a toll on their wing depth, right, and their ability to guard the wing, especially because Mikal Bridges has been guarding a lot of bigger guys this season, playing a lot more of the 4. So look, I say all this to say, like, there's a way for Philly to take this game from Phoenix. And I'm not worried about Phoenix on a lack of rest. This has been sort of their biggest test this season, 3 games and 4 nights. But, they still have plenty of depth, even without all that wing depth that we talk about. That's just been taking a little bit of a hit without Jay Crowder and company. So I'm still feeling pretty good about them. And it's really just mostly about Philly and how bad we're just not, we are feeling about them and their ability to really handle this team, especially without a fully healthy Embiid.
Yeah, I mean, what Philly does well on offense, you did say that the 3-point line is a bit vulnerable for Phoenix, but with that, I mean, I'm not worried about them identifying the right shooters to let shoot here. Still don't think Maxey's a knockdown shooter. Tobias Harris, not the best either, but what Philly does bad on defense is a real concern here in terms of 29th in opponents' 2-point percentage against the mid-range Kings here, 20th in opponents' assist to field goal ratio against the share of the wealth Suns, and 21st in fourth quarter points against the Suns team that was the most clutch team ever last season. They're also 30th in rebounding. And like I said, Embiid's rebounds are way down. He was carrying them to be slightly less than 30th, slightly less 30th. They were still dead last year, but he was getting 12 a game. And so now you can't trust them to win the battle on the boards. And even with Harden in there for most of the season, 25th in free throw attempts, even with Embiid in there for much of the season, 27th in paint points. So their offense is bad right now. I do think that there's an eventual time to pounce on this where, like, Harden's out. Oh, Sixers are getting value. they're maxi Sixers now. Like, absolutely. Like, then you hit them, they're going to be better. They're going to start sharing the ball more. They're going to get adjusted to each other. Quick aside, I think the Nets are also going to be better without Kyrie Irving pretty soon. I think we saw that in their first game against Washington. They're like, oh, thank God this lunatic is off the court. But I digress here. Embiid has the flu. Daniel House picked it up too. If you're betting this early on Monday, you don't know who else is going to have caught the flu on this team. So that's definitely a consideration, or who's like slightly under the weather and doesn't even realize it by the time this game kicks off. But look, the point is, even at full strength, the Suns have handled this team 6 straight times. The overs hit in 4 of those games, by the way. They went 6 for 26 from 3 the last time they were in Philly, and they still won. And by the way, Cam and Jay Crowder were combined 1 for 14 from the field in those games. So it's not like they're depending on those two guys as matchup issues.
Yeah.
Philly now with PJ Tucker at the 4, it's not like, Torrey Craig is just fine in terms of matching his offensive production. And it's a slight revenge game for Dario Saric if you're into that type of thing. So next man up for Phoenix, and they have plenty of men to step up here.
Yep, fully agree. Nothing more to add there. I was going to lean over myself when it's Embiid out, Maxey in, Maxey's team kind of thing, or at least, Embiid not necessarily at full strength or playing the whole game. Then you feel like this game gets sped up a bit. Both these teams don't play very fast though. And so, especially if they're going to try to conserve a bit of energy from last night, are the Suns. I think they'll feed 8 and plenty tonight. And I also think that they will be happy to sort of keep this game a bit slower and choppier and just be able to play really, really good defense, where they're the best half-court team as well that we've seen last season and so far this season. So
the game we're going to break down here right now, the Celtics -3.5 at the Grizz. It was -2 last night. Knicks are +4.5 at Mini. Nuggets -7 at Spurs. Nets +6 at Mavs, Kings +8 at Warriors, Lakers +4 at Jazz, and the Cavaliers -2.5 at the Clippers. Small line there, since we just discussed the Cavs are maybe the second best team in the East right now, but maybe the third best team, the Boston Celtics, whose only losses are to the Cavs in overtime by a point each time, and a scheduled loss against the Bulls, if you will, after their hot 3-0 start. A back-to-back in Chicago. Couldn't get up for that one. Otherwise, they're the best offense in the NBA. Without Ime Udoka, I don't know how much I want to credit the coaching in terms of turning into an insane spread attack, if you will. Their 3-point shooting is just incredible. I mean, 16 per game, 5th in percentage. Last game, they went 27 for 51. And all 9 dudes who saw the floor hit a 3. Franchise record in threes, and Tatum has the franchise record in terms of points through 8 games. So they're averaging about 119 per game coming into this matchup. Memphis, on a home back-to-back here, took care of Washington last night, and interestingly really slowed down the pace to win 103-97, I believe. 93 pace, whereas their last home game, they played it with a 103 pace. So, I mean, people aren't buying that. The total's up about a point, and the Celtics spread is up about 1.5 points since openers, because I think of the back-to-back situation. But mostly because, both of these teams have regressed on defense with essentially with their rim protectors out, right? Jaren Jackson and Rob Williams are out all season here. And both of their offenses look even better, with Desmond Bane taking a step forward, with both Tatum and Brown taking a step forward, and the Celtics adding a third playmaker. And you look at the recent results with these teams. They gone over three straight. A Grizzlies overtime win was the only time the Grizz have won in 13 meetings. This was March 21. The Grizzlies won 132-126, and I looked at the Celtics box score. They had no one besides Jaylen Brown in there who could get a bucket. I mean, Jeff Teague had 26, and Semi Ojeleye started. So I just thought that was ridiculous that you could still get 126 on this team. The last time they met with both Ja and Tatum, both guys had 38, right? Another Celtics win. Ja and Tatum are 7th and 8th in free throws this season, respectively. Both are just absolute. I mean, they're 3rd and 4th in MVP odds right now. Both are just, throw absolutely in their bags offensively.
Yeah.
So I think the Grizz are going to, even if it is a slower half-court game against the efficiency that we're going to see on both sides here, I do like the over. We saw the Grizz play with a 97 pace against the Nets and hit 258 because the Nets can't play much defense. Honestly, the Celtics defense is not good right now, though. I mean, Al Horford's just going to be mucked up with Steven Adams. He's not going to be able to impact down there as much as you would like. Grant Williams is obviously not a rim protector. So it's a lot of just trading buckets with this team. So I kind of like the over, but I do like the Celtics where you can get them at -3 or less. I mean, if it creeps up more, I would say you have to use a teaser. And so the fact that I like over and Celtics means why not just tease it down, take the C's with a 227 total right now on the money line.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Ja's going to come to play, I imagine. But yeah, really looking at, the idea of why Boston does so well against this team, at least in recent history. I know you're throwing out some numbers of them just owning them for at least like the last couple of seasons. But really, even further back, but the last couple of seasons specifically, wing defense, getting back on defense, very fluid transition defense does all things that Boston has, right? You need to be able to box out. Not Boston's strength without Rob Will necessarily. I mean, obviously the Grizz are currently a better rebounding team, but as far as like limiting transition points, limiting points off of turnovers, and they're the other team getting fast break points, all those things that if you can force Memphis to play in the half court, basically, I think you feel pretty good about it. Obviously, the man on the other side of the court in Memphis and Ja, it seems to sort of have progressed to a point that he kind of transcends any kind of lack of fluid offense on Memphis, combined with the fact that I think Bane has also just sort of found his role. There's a lot more space for him now that they're not trying to feed Dillon Brooks the ball, right? Like clearly there's a second banana. Jaren Jackson's not demanding the ball on the wing after like popping out instead of rolling to the basket after a screen. So all that stuff also is without Dillon Brooks and Jaren Jackson being as effective, and it's seeing it any time on the floor for Triple J or really as much for Dillon Brooks this season. I think it also does clearly hurt your defense, right? I like the depth that Memphis has. I do like the fact that they still were able to sort of, just slide in the young man Aldama there and sort of have that be a nice addition on offense and sort of play some of that similar role of being, versatile on offense with that pick and pop kind of play that they're not going to get from Triple J for a long time this year, apparently, if they get it at all. But the defense isn't quite the same either, as what Triple J was bringing as a defensive player of the year candidate. So everything for Memphis that was really the like strength of what they did and it continued to be the way that their play style is, right? They were in the top either 1, 2, or 3 in terms of second chance points, rebounding, offensive rebounding, and then getting the ball and going in fast break. And they're not anywhere near, they're, right outside the top 10 in most of those things at this point, or, definitely not 1 or 2 like they were in top 5 last year. So the fact that Boston's going to be able to get back on defense, make this a half court game is really what I like. I know their defense hasn't been what what you would expect it to have been last season, which isn't that shocking considering they don't have Robert Williams III. We're seeing just how important he was. But the way that they do play defense and the way that they can, limit what you do in transition because they have a bunch of dudes that are 6'7" and also just as fast as anybody you have on your team does mean that I think they can keep and control the game against Memphis the way they had the bunch of last times they played them.
Yeah, I mean, look at the fourth quarter numbers here, which initially makes you want over because Memphis is fourth in scoring in the fourth and allows the third most points. But then you look at the net rating. I mean, they're 25th in defensive rating, which is basically what they are for all quarters. The Celtics, when it's winning time, they have been stepping up. They are second to Milwaukee with an 82% defensive rebounding rate. Memphis is all the way down to 25th in defensive rebounding. They have a -2 net rating. Celtics, a 4 net rating, much better defense. So it really makes me think that the Celtics can close this game more than anything. I do expect it to be close, so I think that's why I'm saying the -3 or 4 spread is a little worrisome on the road. But, I mean, this team, it looks every part the contender. Memphis has been fluctuating pretty wildly because of that poor defense. And you look at what they give up. I mean, I talked about the Celtics being a spread offense. They are giving up the 5th most 3-point attempts this season, Memphis, and the 7th most makes. They're also giving up the 4th most free throws. Offensively, I think that they can keep pace with Ja and Bane attacking the rim. They're fourth in paint points. They're sixth in free throws. Celtics, not really limiting either of those in terms of the free throws. They are limiting fast break points, like you said. They are limiting assists, which doesn't really help you in this matchup. And what it all shakes down to is they're allowing 115. That certainly gets you close to the 231 we're looking at here. Memphis has gone under a couple times with the total still hitting about 235 this season. Usually their totals are higher than this. They're usually around 236 when they're playing, Sac or Portland. And right now you got to treat Boston the same way as those teams, especially when they hit the West Coast like this. You do tend to see a little bit more free-flowing games. And you're seeing such great offense right now from them. Like I said, with Tatum and Brown becoming just elite scorers and Brogdon fitting right in as that third option.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, with Boston, even though, the pace, it's still about 100. I mean, everybody seems to be playing a little bit faster this year, at least, even the sort of middle class of fast teams are playing at a pace of like 100 plus, right? So I think there's a bit more pace going on. And with the Celtics, it's like you said, it's just a different style right now than we've seen without really any kind of enforcer down low and the ability to protect the rim. They're just clearly gunning a little bit more than they might have if they had a little bit more defense in the paint. So Nate, let's jump into that first prop with plenty to choose from tonight.
Yeah, and I'll stick with the game we just got done talking about, Boston and Memphis, which I like as a bit of a high-scoring game. I certainly like Jason Tatum to continue matching points with Ja. The last time they met, they both had 38-ish, and he's averaging, now Tatum, 30 and 8 boards his last two trips to Memphis. He's averaging 30 and 8 boards on the season. And his prop is only 34.5 points and rebounds. So I'm fine with it. The points is 27.5. That actually seems a little high. I think you can get the rebounds in there because Boston's depending on him to board up more because Memphis doesn't have Jaren Jackson. It'll be interesting how often Tatum gets switched onto a guy like Santi Aldama or John Conchar. When they can exploit that. I don't know if Dylan Brooks is going to be on Jaylen Brown to start here. But the point, Tatum, if you're watching him beyond the numbers, like he just looks like a much more confident, much more efficient player this season. He's getting the free throw line the 7th most times. Nice supplement scoring there. He's got 30.5% usage rate, but the efficiency is what I come back to. I mean, he's shooting 50% from the floor. This is a guy who led the NBA in missed field goals last year, and right now he's getting the shots he wants and just carrying a Boston team that's averaging the most points per game. And you look at Memphis, they give up the 4th most free throws, they give up the 5th most 3-point attempts, and the 3rd most fourth quarter points, 4th most third quarter points. So if you expect a close game with Memphis on a back-to-back here, Tatum should be giving you production right down to the wire. And I mean, if he plays a full slate, a full run here, I mean, I don't see how he goes under 35 points and rebounds.
Hell yeah. Love Tatum. Loved his, say it again, loved his MVP that prop that I took at the beginning of the season at 13-1. I also hit Ja at 12-1. Just saying, so both those guys looking really, really good right now. Although the man in Dallas named Luka is absolutely bananas as well. Either way, I'm not going to tell you no on a Tatum prop. If his points and rebounds was closer to like 36 even, and it might get up there, I'd probably still take it. I think he does get, when it's he and Ja, especially like you said, I think it's a 30-point game. And then if he's going to get 8 to 9 rebounds a game like right now, like he is, then I'm going to feel really good about that. So another over here on a pretty high total. But I mean, look, it's Shai Gilgeous right now. And I'm really ashamed to say that in my fantasy league with Mo, he went 45th overall. And somebody even typed out in the comments, like, that is absolutely criminal for what you would expect from Shai Gilgeous. And he's performing like you would expect this season so far, averaging an absurd, 32.5 points a game or so. But he's his points, rebounds, and assists tonight as they play Detroit is at 38.5 on DK at -110. If you want to get a little bit spicier, 39.5. If you take that over on FanDuel is -104, a little better juice there. I'm going to take the FanDuel 39.5 for him to get 40. Basically this season, he got shut down a bit against the best defensive team in the league in Milwaukee last game. And as Milwaukee won that game by double digits. But in all the games this season that he has not played against Milwaukee, he's averaging 32 points, 5 boards, 6 assists, also 2.5 steals and more than a block a game, Nate, which is absolutely amazing. It's really, he's choosing where he wants to play from, and that's from, getting to the rim. He's shooting 55% from the field, which is absolutely wild for, a guard his size. 31% from three, because he's only shooting 3 of those a game. But he is getting to the line 7+ times a game at about 49. So he's 48 for 49 from the free throw line this season, as he's shooting 98% from there. So he's playing a Detroit team that's just the worst team on defense in the league, especially in the paint, where he, like I said, he's scoring more than half his points from the paint is Shea. And that's where Detroit gives up the third most amount of points. And they also they give up the most amount of points, rebounds, assists, you name it, 3-pointers made. 2 point guards, that's where they're just the weakest. Whether that's because, I don't think Cade is really guarding the other team's point guard mostly. He's standing at about 6'7". He often seems to be taking on forwards and not trying to be the guy at the top. So I'm not really sure. I haven't watched enough, to be honest, to understand why they're just allowing point guards to just dominate the way that they are. But if you're going to be that bad against point guards, and you're playing against right now the best offensive point guard in the league in Shea, closely tied with Curry, if you want to say, it's just that's how well he's playing. I'm going to go ahead and take him to get 40 points, rebounds, and assists combined.
Yeah, I mean, best combo guard, I guess, just pure scorer, because I guess Gidey is their point guard. True. And Shea is just the offense right now. I mean, the usage rate is sky high. The only reason he goes late in fantasy drafts is because they worry he's going to get shut down for playing so well eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, OKC already been mislabeling him on the injury report, but he is good to go here against, like you said, Detroit, the worst defensive rating in the NBA. I can't hate anything in terms of his points, in terms of his stats. 28.5 points is high, but I mean, he did kind of burn us getting like 34 points the other night and no peripheral stats. So maybe you want to go that way. Or you want to look at, Shea to get 30 and a win if you're following Josh on that Thunder bet.
Yep.
I'm going to look at De'Aaron Fox here. His second game back here after missing a couple with a knee bruise. He looked just fine in his return against Orlando with 37 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. His assists have been down this year, but I think I'm taking the assists tonight, plus 115 to go over 5.5. Or you can combine it with the points, which is 25.5. But he's gone 5 assists at least in 11 straight against the Warriors. Makes sense. Warriors always playing with pace. Always, kind of trying to get the ball out of the best player's hands on the other team. So forcing him to create more than to just score, averaging 7.5 assists in those 11 games. Earlier this season, 26 points, 10 assists against Golden State. That game totaled 255, by the way. Total tonight is 232. And Fox, with a 32.5% usage rate, should be getting his points as well if the Warriors continue to play bad defense, which, they have all season, especially in terms of giving up production to point guards, giving up the 6th most assists per game, the most free throw attempts per game. They rank 28th in opponents' shooting efficiency. So the assists should be there for Fox if his guys can hit those open shots. Points should also probably be there too, but I think I like the plus odds on the dimes.
Yeah, man. Fading the Dubs right now is definitely a good play, and fading their defense is just the best play you could make. Klay Thompson used to be their wing defender. He used to guard De'Aaron Fox. I think they'll happily take that matchup now if you're the Kings and De'Aaron Fox. And if not, now you're talking about needing other guys to be on the floor. I mean, Jordan Poole's not coming close to guarding De'Aaron Fox. If he does, that's a field day. Dante DiVincenzo's out for them. So you start to look around and go, I guess maybe Moses Moody, but still not able to stay in front of De'Aaron Fox. Much more for So yeah, there's nobody that's there available to guard D Fox tonight for sure. I really like that bet. So I'm going to finish us with an under here, Nate. I really wanted to go over on Karl Anthony Towns because Rudy Gobert is out, and I wanted to look at his points. At first, I thought it was about 21.5, and let's be reminded, I'm in France, so I'm like 9 hours ahead of the West Coast, right, or 6 hours of the East Coast. So like I'm looking at these lines before any of you guys, I promise. And I thought I saw Cat at like 21.5 to open. I'm not sure. Maybe maybe I misread it or just, Gobert got ruled out, but then it went up to 25.5 on just his points. His points and rebounds is at 36.5. I'm going under on his points, rebounds, and assists. Look, I was, like I said, without Rudy this year, one game without him, 25 points, 9 boards, and 6 assists, which still does not get you over 41, right? So that's at 40 right there in 30 minutes. But that was a blowout win. I mean, they won by 12 against the Rockets, but he played the entire fourth quarter. So it wasn't like it was a full blowout win where he just sat, and that's the only reason he got 30 minutes. He just got 30 minutes because that was how long they played him that game. And he had a few fouls. So his usage is still there without Rudy. Obviously, it's mostly just about the fact that when Rudy's on the floor with Cat, it's 103 offensive rating for Minnesota, good for second worst to the Lakers if that was how they played all season with just those two on the floor. So yeah, that's why you consider him maybe having a bounce back game and really bringing it in this one, but against the Knicks in his last 3 matchups who they're playing tonight, with a 27.5% usage rate over the course of those games, still only 22, 12, and 4, right? Which gets you still about 3 or 4 shy of that total for points, rebounds, and assists combined. And yeah, look, the Knicks are the number 1 defense against opposing centers, which is where Cat's going to be playing tonight now that Rudy's not out, which is where he wants to be playing, I'm sure, and helps his spacing. But they do limit centers to the fewest amount of points per game, second fewest assists, 15th in terms of rebounding. Obviously, 3-pointers, they don't give up many of those. They've played guys like Brook Lopez so far this year and a few other shooting centers that they still did not allow a bunch of threes to. So you feel pretty good about them going under. 41.5 is just too many tonight against a Knicks team that might not be as good at defense as Tibbs has loved in the past, but they're still plenty fine in a way that I think they limit Cat beyond below that number.
Yeah, and like you said, they've limited Cat since Tibbs became the coach. In his last 3, He's not getting this total. They now have Isaiah Hartenstein, one of the most underrated down-low defenders out there, to complement Mitchell Robinson. Depending on what they want to throw at Cat, he's going to get more attention now without Rudy there. And yeah, I mean, I think sometimes the odds tell you everything you need to know. Is that you're getting like minus 105 here at FanDuel on the under, but other books like Caesars have minus 125 for Cat to go under this. So it is expected, basically. So if you can get it at a good price there, go ahead and take the under.
Yep, love that. Do not sleep on that pickup. Isaiah Hartenstein was such a wonderful play. He's getting more minutes than Mitch Robb for most of the games this season. So yeah, it's another good reason that they've got some depth at center. But that is all the time we have for you guys. We will be off for a day as there is a break in the NBA so that everybody can get out and vote on Tuesday night. But until we see you next on Wednesday, happy betting.